Hello everyone, welcome to Gardening TLC. We are in week 7 of our growing series with vegetables and herbs, which is 2 weeks after our last frost date. We are going to be planting up the rest of the garden today with tomatoes, melons, and peppers. We're going to talk about some of the do's and don'ts with watering, and we're going to take a look at the lettuce that we cut last week so you can see just how fast this grows in. So I hope you guys are enjoying this series, you're learning some things, and hopefully you're growing right along with us. So let's get going. We are at the garden bed that we planted 7 weeks ago. It was the very first bed we did with all of our leafy greens. I will be harvesting out some more radishes today, finish those off. I have some more going in another bed that'll be ready in a couple weeks, but we are going to plant something else in place of the radishes now that they are done. I also wanted to show you how fast this lettuce grows back after you cut it down. I could probably harvest it again today, but I will wait one more week and then I'll harvest some more lettuce. We have 1 bag of lettuce left to eat. It still is awesome looking in the fridge, and we'll probably have it for dinner tonight. So let's look at the lettuce we cut last week. Check this out. Can you believe this is the same bed that we harvested all of that lettuce out of last week? Look at how fast this has grown in. This is the salad bowl lettuce, the red and the green. Can't even tell that I cut that. Now I'm gonna let this get a little bit bigger and I'll probably harvest it again next week. But look at, I'm gonna probably cut this 3 or 4 different times because it just keeps growing and growing and growing as long as the temperatures don't get crazy hot. That's when your lettuce starts to wear out and you'll be done with it. Now, I am gonna harvest out these 2 rows of radishes here. You can see here, they are plenty ready to be harvested. They're a good size, they're pretty big. So we'll get those out of here. And then what I'm gonna put in its place is a pepper. Because I'm not gonna plant more radishes in this spot, I am going to plant a pepper in its place. I have some more radishes growing in another bed. Now I find that I can grow radishes all summer long here in zone 5, but the hotter the temperature gets, the hotter the radishes get. I don't necessarily like really hot radishes, so I have a tendency to grow them when it's cool out. So we'll harvest all of this out. Some of them I'll give away and some of them I'll take home. All right, here's all the radishes that I got. These are the purple royal and these are the lady slippers. They're a little more purple, I guess. I don't know. Pretty cool, pretty good haul. We are gonna be planting peppers today. It's a really super easy crop to grow. There's sweet peppers and there's hot peppers. I will link a video down below of a video I did last year. It's called like the hottest pepper in the world. And it talks about the Scoville scale and where peppers fall on that scale if you're looking for a hot pepper to grow of your very own. Now, I am not a hot fanatic, but I do grow a few hot ones. One of them being a cayenne long slim. So this is a cayenne pepper. We love cayenne pepper like as pepper. So we grow them, we dry them, and then we grind our own pepper. So we start with these little bitty plants like this. Now, when you're growing a pepper, you want to make sure that you give it plenty of nitrogen when you first put it in, but you don't need to fertilize it again until you've got a good crop of fruit that's set, and then you can fertilize it again. Over fertilizing with too much nitrogen on your pepper plant will stop it from producing a good crop of peppers for you. Now, peppers is a crop that the more you pick them, the more you get, because you're forcing them to create more flowers instead of going to seed. So you're kind of tricking it. So the more you pick, the more you get. I do like to use the cheap tomato cages on my peppers because my bed is elevated. I do get some windstorms through here, and it's heartbreaking to lose a pepper plant that you grew up, you know, this big, and then the wind takes it out because it snaps it. So I find that by protecting it with the cages and putting a little piece of rod next to it like a grow stick, that helps it stay up in case I get a windstorm. Peppers don't really need that. I'm doing that because of where I'm planting. So I'm gonna plant mine right down in here. I'm gonna add fertilizer to it and attach my little stick, and then we'll move on to the other ones because I believe we're gonna plant 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 peppers today. As always, I'm using a Garden Special 11, 15, 11. This is the fertilizer I will use all season long. Now, just for those of you that wanted to know, we planted those radishes back on 4/8, and today is May 20th. Got my cheap tomato cage on here, and I just buy like the $1.99 ones because for a pepper, I don't need as much support as I do for a tomato. So I just buy the cheap ones, and then I just get these coated bamboo rods. Then I just loosely tie it on there, all done. Let's go plant some more. As always, I like to move my vegetables into different beds. I don't plant all of my peppers together. In this bed, we're gonna plant 4 jalapenos. This is an early jalapeno. I use them to make all kinds of things. We make cowboy caviar. I use it in salsas. I use it in pico de gallo. Lots of different things for jalapenos, so I do plant 4. Now, these are the ones in another video that were real little. They were like this big in those little 4 packs, and we started them up in a bigger container. This is not a Proven Winners pepper. It's just a container that I had just to get them going a little bit earlier. Peppers are definitely a warm season crop, and they need warm temperatures. Nighttime temperatures really should be above 55 to 60 degrees, and it should be like that all the time. So one of the things that you can do to warm your soil up faster is you can take a black garbage bag, cut it open, and put that on top of your soil, hold it down with some bricks, and then the sun will heat that soil up faster for you. But if you're going to do that, remember, just because you heat the soil up, you still need the ambient temperature, which is the air temperature, needs to be warm as well. They do not like any kind of cold whatsoever, and they will totally croak if you try to plant them in the cold. One of the other peppers I like to grow is a sweet banana pepper. I love to pickle these. So these are my favorite pepper to use like on Italian salads and pasta salads, to eat them alongside like Italian beef. So we grow a lot of these and I pickle them. Now these come to fruition in 65 to 70 days. But again, it's not just one harvest. You keep picking them. Now in the garden centers right now, you might find peppers on the pepper plants. Your goal right now is not to have peppers. It's to produce roots in a big healthy plant. So pinch these off. Go ahead and eat them if you want, or throw them away, totally up to you. But don't leave them on the plant, because you don't want the energy going to this. You want the energy going to this. I am going to plant 2 sweet peppers in this bed as well. I'm going to plant a California Golden Wonder, and then I'm also going to plant a Purple Beauty. Now all sweet peppers start out green and then they turn based on how long they've been on the plant, the warmth of the sun, and the cultivar that you're growing. But they all really start green. Now, if we follow the rule of thumb, pick, that would mean that I'd have to pick peppers on this that are green, so it'll keep producing peppers, which is what I'll do. Now, I'm not a big fan of green peppers. I usually give all those away, and then I let my last batch turn at the end of the season. I don't grow these so much because I want to have a whole bunch of peppers. I grow these just for fun, and I like to grow the purple, and I like to grow the yellow. So let's get these in the ground. I'm such a dork. I don't know which one is which because I pulled the tag, so I guess I'll put them both right here and we'll find out when they come in. The last 2 peppers that I like to grow are a Melrose pepper. Now this is a sweet pepper, even though it looks like a hot pepper. They are long and they are red, and you can pick them green or red, and they turn really fast and they produce like mad. And I will get a lot of peppers from this. I love to use these for fajitas all summer long. Yum, yum, yum. All right, next is tomatoes. Now, I did do a video last year on tomato growing. It's called Tomatoes 101. I will link that as well below, but I will go over some of the basics with you right now. Okay, so this is a tomato plant that we planted up. One of the things that you want to do with your tomato plants, especially if you go to the garden center and buy a spindly one right now, plant it as deep as you can. You do want to come through here and pinch off all of the bottom leaves that are on this. So I'm just going to pinch these off because I want to plant it deep so that I get a really good root system. Also, if it's really long and spindly, you could actually lay it on its side and the tomato will straighten itself up and grow up. Also, if it has flowers on it, I know, pinch them off, because you're not trying to make fruit right now. You're trying to grow a great root plant or a great root system with plants. Now, the other thing you want to do is see these little suckers that grow in between the crotches of the branches. I don't know, can you see that right there? Those you want to pinch out as they're growing, because it produces more side branches for you, and then you get lots of tomatoes, sure, but they might not be as big as you want them to be. And how many tomatoes can you really eat? Now, this is a San Marzano. This is an Italian tomato. It's a paste tomato. We're going to grow this one, and we'll be making spaghetti sauce and some really yummy tomato sauce with this. So I love these. I'm going to plant 2. And I plant these both in one bed side by side. As you can see here, I do have a flower starting, and I even have a little tomato. Oh, I'm pinching that right off because I don't need that yet. I need it to produce great roots. Now, the other thing about tomatoes that you're going to find is we have 2 different kinds. One is called determinate and the other is called indeterminate. So, for example, aroma. Aroma 2 is a determinate tomato, and what it does is it grows, it sets its fruit, it gets all its tomatoes, it gets them all at the same time, and it's pretty much done. They grow to a determined size, and they don't get any bigger. So they're great to use in patio pots or in small areas if you don't have a lot of room. The biggest thing is you're going to get your fruit all at the same time, and it's done. Then you have indeterminate tomatoes, which is what the tomatoes are that I'm growing. These guys grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow until a frost takes them out. So when we get towards the end of the season, I'll show you what to do with those so that you can get the final crop of your fruit to get big enough that you want to harvest it and get it to turn colors. And we'll cover that at the end. The other thing to remember with tomatoes is they want consistent moisture. Typically, a tomato plant needs about a gallon of water a week during your average temperature week. If it gets really hot out, they might need more than that. Now, the best way to water a tomato is absolutely with a drip system that you can control, but not all of us have drip systems or the budget to do that, and we have to do it by hand. There are a lot of different ways that you can do it. I've seen a lot of different tricks out there, from poking holes in the bottom of a 2-liter soda bottle and then sinking that in the ground on either side of the tomato plant, filling that up so that it waters really deep. I tried that one year and I found that it wasn't any better or worse than doing it by hand. The key is not to let them dry out, soak them, dry out, soak them. You don't want to do that. Nice, consistent moisture. When you let them dry out like that, that's when you start getting problems with your tomatoes. The other thing that you can do with your tomato plants that will really help you is I make sure that I keep pinching off the bottom part of the stem here as it's growing so that I don't have dirt splashing up on my tomato plant. A lot of your diseases are in the dirt, and so if you can prevent that, that's going to solve a lot of your blight problems. The other thing is mulch underneath that tomato with straw, mulch, something that's going to help hold moisture in the soil to keep it more consistent. Then the third mistake I think people make is they over-fertilize their tomatoes. You can over-fertilize with too much nitrogen and grow this big, beautiful, glorious plant and get no fruit and no tomatoes. You want to fertilize it when you first put it in. And then when you start to see fruit set, where you've got tomatoes that are about the size of a golf ball, then you want to side dress it again. And I do that every 3rd to 4th week as long as it's producing well. Also, pick your tomatoes. I will pick them ripe, and I'll pick them right before they're ready to be ripe and finish ripening them inside. That way it will continue to produce flowers for me and continue to produce fruit. You can see here I dug a pretty deep hole. See, there's my hand at the bottom. And I am going to be planting the San Marzano in there. So I potted these up in these pots to get them going bigger. And what I'm going to do now is, see, I'm going to get that as deep as I can. But what I'm going to do is I am going to pinch off, and if you don't want to use your fingers, use a little cutter. I am going to pinch off these bottom 3 branches. This will be so much healthier and so much bigger because I'm doing this. All right, now I'm going to put this in my hole, and I'm going to backfill. Tomatoes need a support system or they will fall over from the fruit and the weight of your tomato plant. Now, I've seen people let them sprawl all over the ground, but I think you're just inviting a lot of problems when you do that. There are so many different ways to grow a tomato, and there are so many different ways to support it. So find the system that works for you. I just use heavy duty tomato cages. I don't buy cheap ones. I paid $10 for each of these tomato cages, but I'm going on my 4th year using them. So I probably spend as much as you did with a cheap cage and my tomatoes stay up. I've seen them made out of cattle panels. I've seen them made out of concrete wire. I've seen them grown like up the ropes and the weave method. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Just do what works for you. I am going to use another garden stake. This garden stake is taller than the ones that I used for the peppers. This one here is a 5-foot stake because my tomatoes are going to get a lot bigger, and I will tie them as they go up. There he is, so cute. All right, let's plant all the rest of them. So Michelle, which tomatoes do you grow? Inquiring minds want to know. Well, I grow a pineapple tomato. I grew this one for the first time last year because Laura at Garden Answer said it was the best tomato she ever ate. And so I grew it and I went, oh my gosh, this is one of the best tomatoes I've ever ate. So I'm growing it again. It was awesome. It was all she said it was and some. Nom, 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 nom. I love it. I always grow a Cherokee Purple. This is actually an heirloom tomato, which means the seed has been around for a crazy long time. If you are trying to save seeds, you want to make sure that if you're planting an heirloom, you plant it away from everything else, or the seed will cross-pollinate with the other tomatoes that you're planting it near. But I love the Cherokee Purple. It has this unique flavor all its own. There are classifications of tomatoes. Heirloom is one of them, and your big beef tomatoes is another. So I like to grow the Beef Master. It is one of my favorite big tomatoes to grow because I find like I have less scarring on the bottom and less cracking when I grow it. Large tomatoes are notorious for cracking, and I don't like it when they do that, so I love this one. I grow this one because I want to eat it on a BLT. I also want to pick them green and do fried green tomatoes. That's my favorite absolute thing to do with a Beef Master tomato. Now I also grow a slicing tomato, and I'm going to grow a Super Fantastic. I've grown this one on and off for the last 10 years. It's just a nice, consistent, good tasting slicing tomato, or you could put it in a salad, but I like both of these. Then you have your grape tomatoes or your cherry tomatoes. They are super sweet. They're orange. I can keep up with harvesting them. I know a lot of people like super sweets, but I don't grow those because I can't ever keep up with harvesting the super sweets because you practically have to harvest those every single day. This one, once it gets going, I can probably come out every third or fourth day and harvest, but the tomatoes on this are great. I love this one. I grow it every year. The last two tomatoes that I grow are Roma tomatoes. Now these are the determinate tomatoes, so I get them all at the same time, but this is the ones that I'll use to create a big batch of salsa with, and I plant two of them. So I have the San Marzanos on one side and the Romas on the other. At the beginning of the video, you saw me compost up this bed and plant 4 little seedlings. This whole bed is going to be cantaloupe, and we are doing the Hale's Best Jumbo. Now these come to fruition in 80 days from seedling, so they're going to take all summer to grow, but when they come in, they are the juiciest, sweetest little cantaloupes. I love these cantaloupes. So the whole bed is just going to be cantaloupe. That's all we're doing in it. Yep. Yum, yum. If you're going to do anything to be a better gardener, I would say do consistent watering, because that is the #1 thing that will help your garden. Letting them dry out and then coming back around behind it and giving it a deluge of water because you think that that's going to help your plant is not going to help your plant. Drying out and then overwatering only makes your plants stress. Stressed plants get diseases and bugs. Keep your plants healthy to begin with. Do a watering routine so that way you're always doing the watering when it needs to be done. Also, putting a rain gauge in your garden is a really good idea because then you'll know how much water you're actually getting from rainfall. Because sometimes we think we're getting a lot of water and we're really not in the rain. So a rain gauge is a great idea. Mulching your bed with straw, mulch, something will help with moisture control. It'll help also with soil temperature and keeping it nice and consistent. That way your plants will hold on to that moisture longer. So I highly recommend that once your plants are up, go ahead and get them mulched because we're going to do that later today. And when you come back next week, you're going to see all the beds except where seeds are coming up. They will be mulched, and that way I have to water less often. Watering over the top of your plants just invites foliar disease. The best way to water is to bring your watering wand down and water down towards the roots. That way you're keeping your foliage dry. The earlier you water, the better. Morning time is the absolute best time to water because you've hydrated your plants to take them through the heat of the day. I would say the second best time to water is early evening. That way you still have time for your foliage to dry, but you're not losing water to evaporation. Also, remember, you want to get a deep watering, not a shallow watering. Sometimes we think we're getting enough water on it and we're really not. So what I'll do is an initial watering like I just did, but if I were to stick my finger in the ground to see how far the water went down, it didn't go down very far. So what I'll do is I'll come back and water the bed a second time so I get deep penetration. It's better to do a deep watering than a shallow watering less often. That way your roots will stretch for that water and they'll be well hydrated to make it through the heat of the summer. All right, I do have to go through and water. They have thunderstorms predicted for the next couple days, so we will be getting some rain out here, but I am gonna water everything in that I just did. Just a quick recap of where we're at. Bed #1, this is our leafy greens, looking great. We did plant 1 pepper in here in place of the radish. This thing is looking awesome. Bed number 2, we have our yellow onions in here. Our lettuce is coming along, looks beautiful. Our peas are starting to get some height on them and some flowers in this bed. And then we have turnips here that are really starting to bulk out. And then look at our cabbage. Oh my gosh, this is looking gorgeous. This is the baby jade cabbage. Now this broccolini, I don't know if it's supposed to do this or not. I'm gonna have to read up on this. I'll give you an update next week, what I find out. I don't know if it's supposed to flower, if I did it wrong. I don't know. I've never seen broccoli flower. It's my first time growing this, so I'm not quite sure if I'm doing it wrong. Moving to bed 3, we have our beets here. We also have some beautiful broccoli, some more of our lettuce. Our celery's coming along. Look at our kohlrabi, you guys. Isn't that great looking? And look at the peas on this one. And look, we have our first peas. I'll be able to pick some of these today. Look at that. Let's get this one. I'm gonna eat it. It's gonna be my breakfast. My first pea, yay. Okay, moving on. Then we have red onions here. Into this bed here, I did end up putting another cucumber right here up this trellis. By the time this thing is really growing big, all of this stuff will be done. This is more of our lettuce. We've got some little cabbages here, our calendula along the edge. Our red cabbage looking good along with our broccoli, and some more peas here. And again, this one is also starting to get some peas on it right there. Then we have our Brussels sprouts here and some more of our little jade cabbage. Bed number 5. This one is where our lavender is. It's starting to fill in. This is the calendula that we pulled out of the winter sown jugs last week. We still have chives in here that we need to harvest, and then we planted 4 of our tomatoes down on the end. Moving on to bed number 7. This is where our parsley is planted. We have some more lettuce, also broccoli. We planted our peppers here, and then our potatoes down at the end. This bed's not quite finished. We do have 4 peppers in it and 4 tomatoes, the San Marzanos and the Romas. In the middle here next week we'll be planting eggplant, some delicata squash that we're going to grow vertical, and some Japanese cucumbers. I just want it to be a little warmer before I start those. Bed number 8 is where we planted our wax beans last week. We also did this as a squash bed. We have our spaghetti squash that we're going to grow up the trellis. We also have some yellow straight neck squash, and then we have a honey nut squash right here, and this bed is full as well. Then we jump over to the last 3 beds. These are beds 9, 10, and 11. We have broccoli in here. We put our Melrose peppers. We have the first sowing of green beans, the jade, that are coming up. We also did some zucchini in here. I have the last of the calendula, and I left a little space right here for something. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but we'll put something there. Maybe some more calendula seeds. And then we finished this bed off with cauliflower. So we have white and purple. We jump over to the next bed, and we've got some Napa cabbage along with sun sugar tomato. We also planted another squash here, and this one is another zucchini, a single all by itself. It's a ball zucchini. We did put some more cucumbers on a trellis that we're going to grow up underneath the broccoli. And again, by the time it fills this whole trellis, that broccoli will be done. We have another batch of our beets and our turnips. And then we have our cilantro and more peas down at the end. Jumping all the way to the end, we have more cucumbers growing up the trellis, our dill, our radishes, and then our second bed of leafy greens. Can you believe we have planted all of this food in 7 weeks? We've already done 1 harvest, a little baby harvest today, and we are now going to go into kind of what we call maintenance mode. Watering, weeding, picking, making sure that everything still looks good, checking for bugs and things like that. So we're going to also shift into cook mode, and we'll show you what to do with some of the things that we're harvesting out of the garden. So stay tuned for that. That will start next week. I hope you guys are learning something. I hope you're enjoying the video. I'm Michelle. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.